Hello, hello. Are we on now? Hello, hello, everybody. Okay, who we got in here? We got Lumpy, Christoph, uh, Scory, Ness, of course. Good morning to you all. Something I've actually been curious about is without getting too, specific, locationally, where are we? Like for me, it's 10 in the morning. I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah right now. Can we do a little bit of a chime in? Would love to get to know generally where everybody's located. All right, Scory's in Canada. Lumpy's in Oakland, baby. All right. Just saw Green Day play at Coachella. Your boys from Oakland. Tennessee, the Cat Lady, and Wolverhampton. You know what, Ness? I don't think I knew that's exactly. I knew England, but I didn't know Wolverhampton, which might be the most English sounding name for a place I've ever heard of. Okay, Christoph is in Belgium in a traffic jam. Yes, he'd mentioned that he might be stuck in traffic. Drive safe, brother. Okay, SoFlo for Michael Williams. The Philippines for Medicapo. Uh, East Coast of the U.S. for Channel Vote. Okay, so we're kind of a scattered crew here, and I recognize for some of you, this is it's been a little bit. It's a little bit of a sacrifice to have made it out to our informal little chat here. So, and there's Peg. It was busy in Berserk. Peg, that is always allowed to be busy in one of our games. We're looking around to see where everybody has come from. Trying to get just a rough idea of our locations here. Hi, Estelle. Boreas. Okay, good answer, Lumpy. Okay, and Vegas from Italy. Oh, very cool. Okay, yeah, it's so funny because when you're on a chat like this, you just kind of I think you kind of assume voices and sounds for everybody, and it's interesting to get this through. So I wanted to jump in real quick. We've got uh, uh, first and foremost, I wanted to let everybody know that we are making big progress in all of our games. I've kind of prepared some of the things that I wanted to discuss because we are actually going to announce who's working on Berserk right now. So it's actually, believe it or not, drum roll please, it's going to be our same team that's working on Vulcanverse. It's an option I've honestly been pushing for because that way we can make sure that the story, the vibe, the crossover and economy is going to work. And so they've just got the experience of building a strategic card game before, as we've mentioned, and it's I one of my major goals with Vulcan Forge is to really bring in consistency and to bring a quality level that's all on. And the Vulcanverse team has some members that have done card games before. They're familiar with this. In our discussions, we talk about it with a certain level of knowledgeability, and that will make it so much more seamless to, for instance, in the Vulcanverse, walk into a tavern and see somebody playing Berserk, and so that's the big news. We were holding off because we wanted to make sure that we got the code across, that everybody was on board. But I'm very excited about this and really looking forward to bringing kind of simultaneous deliveries from Vulcanverse and Berserk as we kind of build the bridge across those two right there. So, all right. So, we've got Estelle. My pronouns: he, him. And let's see. You guys, okay? We're excited about this. The art team is in Greece, which I just love on a very core level. It's one of the things that makes our team very unique. Is they're not from some other place trying to replicate the myths and legends of another place. Like the authenticity of having a Greek team in and doing this is incredible, I think. Yes, Lumpy, I know what you're talking about spreading the team too thin. Here's the good part, though. The dev work needed in Berserk, it does not require a massive team. It really is some stuff where a lot of it is, I think, going to need some dials twisted and some rules. And so if I would be more concerned if they're working from scratch, but it's really a case of having some collectible card game experts stepping in and saying, like, they've got their hands on the wheel now, and now they've got the access to all of the assets, to all the monster designs and everything else to go in there. And so as I'm kind of pushing for this revamped look for everything that we're doing, that's going to have the elements of I've been setting up as a great example the way that Asgard is shown in the MCU. How it's got this combination of high tech, but it's so high tech that it's smoothed out and modernized and almost looks like those classic designs. The armor, the weaponry, I think that's a cool spot to aim for, and I think a spot that can hit squarely in a bigger gamer demographic that we all know we'd love to bring those people into our community and get some of those numbers up. So let's see. Channel Voice says, now that Metascapes is rebranding, morphing into a shootout game with world creation, is Vulcan Studios looking at any world creation in which we can import our own assets? That's I don't think has been at the forefront of what we've been talking about. I don't think I'm opposed to that. What the big thing that I'm pushing for right now, and I think we discussed this a little bit in the last AMA. We've got some more movement, by the way, with this this game. We've got a couple new titles that we're going for that I'd love to bounce off of everybody as well. But first and foremost, I want to let you know I want to take what's kind of a pretty straightforward paintball looking game if you've played it at all, and it's kind of generically futuristic. We're going to bring it into the Vulcanverse, and the idea is going to be that our demigods, basically your players, as they're trying to prove themselves amongst each other and gain points and recognition from the gods to be accepted into the pantheon, they play this game. It's a non-lethal game, but a fun, creative, competitive, fast-paced sort of game, and to rise up the ranks. And so we're talking. We've actually got some weapons that had already been built for Metaball that we're kind of going to reskin and give them that kind of MCU Asgard. I'm going to stop saying MCU Asgard. We're going to give them the Vulcanverse treatment, so they looked crafted by Vulcan, but they still have that cool, kind of a touch of cyberpunk around that. Like we've got this badass crossbow. We're gonna have with like lines of electricity, crackling up and down. We're still playing with this idea of, apart from just, they're not splashing you with paint, they're splashing you with like divine energy. And so, if it is a Vulcan blessed crossbow, for instance, it's going to be a glowing magma colored kind of paint that will splash on you. But since you are a demigod, it will not be a violent sort of thing, but maybe it will harden into a crust and maybe slow you down. You lose some mobility because you've been hit by that one. Maybe you're hit by one of Neptune's water bolts, and that makes you slip and slide around. Like, it's going to be paintball plus some cool creativity, like we discussed last time. Just so you know, the entire dev team was absolutely inspired by our discussion last time. Just so you know, our brainstorm sessions do not fall upon deaf ears. They are literally creative jam sessions. That's what I believe is the best part about being in this kind of a community, is that all the voices count, and we listen to what you're saying. So yes, and that's a good point. The devs are separate from the art teams. They're all amazing. Perfect sense having the same team in both. They already understand the lore, what it's all about. We're going to get a consistency from that. So sounds like we're excited about this. And then Lumpy says, Cameron, Vulcan Forge has a history of reaching too far for the stars, only realized that certain aspirations were never going to be realized. I really hope you can keep the aspiration part, but close the loop on the reaching too far part. Honestly, That is a very good point. It's been one of the things that I've been, when I got on board, and I saw there were like a handful of games, and they're all kind of shooting in these different directions. And so really they say being a creative director is like herding cats. You got them running all over the place. I've been just trying to pull the focus because we've got several teams in several different countries, and trying to pull that into a focus. I've had some good long conversations with Jamie about this of like, hey, we've got all of this momentum and direction that we've put into this, our mythical Greek Roman IP. There's no reason to be distracting from that or pulling away from that. We should all roads must point towards Vulcan, basically. And so that's really what we're trying to do. And by pointing to Vulcan, that doesn't just mean we're going to give them a thin veneer of Roman mythology over the top of things. It really does mean that I want them interacting and playing with each other. And it's a lot of work. And you're right about that. And that's why I wanted to start doing these AMAs, because the sacrifice for doing more focused quality work might be an extended timeline to get some of this stuff out. Basically, good work just takes longer. And so my job is to connect with you and let you know what's being done. So Lumpy Land, I used to be a road manager for a band, also herding cats. Yes, I've been in a band back. I mean, a little bit of unasked for background. One of the reasons I'm a creative director is just because I like to do all the creative things. And so before I was an animator and a writer, I was in a ska band. You guys remember ska back in the 90s? And actually, I was keyboards, trombones, and vocals. And we were a little group called Go-Go 13. We toured around like the Southwest, played in, a couple of big shows. It was I think our biggest, we opened in one show, we opened for Real Big Fish and the Aquabats, if you guys are familiar at all. But yeah, a band is like working with a band was the best preparation for working with creative teams ever, because the feline analogy is not off base. Anyway, yeah, Mighty Boss Tones, killer group. Okay, so also we've got a fun little surprise for you, which is, for the first time ever, I've got a guest speaker. He is somebody who could not actually be here because of some family things, but he has provided a video. And so I am going to play said video, and then we can talk details and questions after that. So this is the first time I've ever done a share screen on this situation. So please hold. All right, here we go.
Hey guys, Sal here. I know I was briefly introduced at the last AMA, but just want to give a little bit more background on myself. And I know I was present in the chat, but really didn't get to chat at all with any of you. So as you all know, I've been appointed the Community Games Liaison, looking at the side games, and in particular Berserk, until the other games kind of get going and we branch out as appropriate. Just so a bit of background just about me and my journey through Vulcan Forge. So I joined, I've been a part of the Vulcan Forge community for about 4 years now, joining in late 2021. I joined just as a Sedalian, not really talking to anybody, just keeping to myself. Slowly, as I started to get more familiar and people, were extremely friendly, I started getting more active in the server. I joined the hype train eventually, and became a landowner in 2022, in early 2022. Became more active then, and then I was voted as a community philosopher in May of 2022. And upon leaving, Jamie made me a moderator kind of right after that. So, and I've been doing that for about 3 years, until very recently when Jamie asked me to kind of be the Community Games Liaison. And of course, I would love to do that. The role is very special to me. I've of course bought land. I played Vulcanverse like daily for a very long time, but then I got a lot more into like Berserk, competing in seasons 2 and 3. So when I joined the seasons, at the same time I was a moderator. So I was helping out behind the scenes as well. So I was helping Dude MK with, multiple different things, whether it was testing or trying to figure out a new MMR formula because there were some complaints about that. Combing through data, analyzing data, the decks people were playing. And then, the leaderboard was broken. So I rebuilt that. And then, combing through and figuring out, who was eligible for what prizes during the seasons 2 and 3. So as you can tell, I love the game. Life got a little bit busy with 2 little ones. So I kind of had to step away. But I'm so happy that this opportunity presented itself because, again, I love the game, the community, the players I was playing with, super, super happy. And I'm hoping that, with my knowledge of the game, the player base, the mechanics, that I can really be a proper mouthpiece, between the community and Cameron, Daredevil, devs, and then really get our ideas across and really make this game successful. So with this responsibility, I encourage you all to be active in your observations, your feedbacks, your criticism, recommendations. Those that know me know I'm always reading the chat. I'm always ready to chat as well. And I'll be sure to get that information to the right people at the right time. And we just want to make sure we just get the conversation going. And then I'll be able to relay whatever they tell me back to the community. And I know I'm brand new to the role, but I have already been given some papers from Daredevil on, where his head is at. And honestly, it's awesome to read. And I know it's very early on, and it's just I'm looking at it on the surface, and deeper conversations will need to be had. But honestly, just as you all know, he's a brilliant mind. Like he, through his chess, Magic the Gathering, and of course in Hexenagos, like with him, Cameron, and this new dev team that will be announced pretty soon, I think this game is truly in the right hands. And we really hope that we can make you proud. So I'm sure a working group is going to be announced pretty soon as well, or we'll get people involved in that. So just stay tuned for that. And while the new dev team is kind of, familiarizing themselves with the code and getting, figuring out what is the next steps, we are going to be having, I believe, 2 tournaments once Roxbury's tournaments are done. So I have been chatting with him to figure out the rules of the tournament. So I think the way we're going to be doing this is it's going to be a starter tournament where there's a list of low rarity cards that we can play, and then there'll be kind of like a legendary open format type tournament as well. And so that'll all take place officially in our server with prizes and stuff like that. So just the announcement will come out for that pretty soon. I think, again, we just want to make sure that we know when Rox's tourneys are going to be done. So really excited to get this going, as we know the community has been craving competition for a very, very, very long time. So that's it for me and my update. I'm happy to answer any questions in the server that you may have, and I'm really, really looking forward to the tournaments.
Okay. Did that come through? So yeah, the tournament's going to be amazing. So good to have Sal on and to be a more active and part of I love that he's coming from the community itself, and so I hope he's established a degree of trust with y'all. And it's honestly is a little bit of a relief for me too, so that I know that there is somebody that probably more fluently speaks your language with that degree of comfort and again trust that's in that circle. So let's see. Oh yeah, by the way, I wanted to share from DNS we had some updates as well that I think will be interesting. We've for Vulcanverse, our Fatui system and our quest logic are nearly complete. We're looking for at a couple more weeks so the dev team can finalize everything, maybe a couple more days of testing on top of that. The character creation system is also looking amazing on the technical side. Could be ready to release in a few weeks as well. I'm not going to give you any hard dates on that because we're doing some testing. You never know what's going to happen with that. In the character creation screen, I actually got in and fooled around with it. It's getting a lot more robust. Remember last time we talked about tattoos, scars, elements that you can use to make your character stand out, look a little bit better than like a poser model from something off the shelf. That I've been pushing for that so hard. And we've got your first character creation worked through our opening cinematic. We've got Cadmus, who talks you through everything that's going in and is going to give you a sense of who you are, a sense of character, and will send you on your way to those quests. So that right there, I know that might sound like it's just a little something, but that little something is a seed that is going to be transformative to what's going to happen with Vulcanverse. You know, our big picture is to have Vulcanverse with an entirely open world, adventuring, questing sort of location, and that's where we got to start right there. We've got in fact, just this week had some killer meetings about opening up the world a little more, having spots of actual wilderness, of actual like adventure, and wandering monsters and all that fun stuff. So I'll dig more into that next week, but just wanted to give a little taste of what's coming down. Okay, let's read here. Yes, and Ness says that the video from Sal will drop for y'all on Discord after the AMA. And like Peg says, Sal knows already all the ins and outs about Berserk being always on top of things. We're testing. He's the right fit. Yeah, that was a big part of the decision that we made there. That's one of the reasons we decided that to go for this, is because he knows what he's talking about, and he's a fantastic advocate. The other nice thing is he's I believe lives like one time zone away from me, so there's not as much 3 a.m. meetings to get that information across. Makes it a little more speedy as well. So, all right, Peg's asked, what do you think about the sound effects in VV? For now, there's no real immersion when you're in all the quadrants. Yeah, that is on my list. Sound is vital, and it's funny because it gets, in a lot of game dev, sound gets put at the bottom of the rung. It's usually the thing that has to kind of respond after everything else is done. And a lot of that is for production reasons. But I think having great sound can absolutely transform the game experience, and that goes from sound effects to dialogue to music and everything else, and has been something that I've spearheaded with a lot of the projects. In fact, what little gaming history here. One of my very first projects was a game called Advent Rising on the Xbox, and we had Tommy Tallarico came in and did a soundtrack for us. We talked about, we had our sights set on, we're like, we want John Williams, Star Wars-esque, big epic sound, and he brought it. He brought like a Philharmonic. I think he had an actual orchestra come in and play these parts. Had a choir. He came in, we were in Utah at the time. He came in to have the Mormon Tabernacle Choir do all this chanting. If you get any chance to check out Advent Rising, do. But the music, for this little game coming out of a startup, the music was absolutely the best part. And I think Tommy still has a touring group he does called Video Game Live. And Tommy has since gone on to do music for some of the biggest games of the past 20 years. If you've ever seen Earthworm Jim, he's done stuff with Halo. Tommy's got an incredible career, but he still does the Advent Rising, our dinky little game. He still performs that, and it gets recognized. There is something about the music for a game, especially that one that you're going to be spending hours and hours and hours in, that needs to be just perfectly done. So that's on the list because of everything else being changed right now. Peg, I just want you to know it is not at our highest priority right now, but it is on a will get done priority, if that makes sense. So, okay. Is there a current rule book for Vulcanverse? I get lost in links looking for small implementations. Yes, there is. And I don't know, Ness, if that's something you can link to. It's one of the things that I would like to transform. I think any good game should make sense. The UI, the UX should be natural and should flow as you step in. And that is something that we've got some complexity. My very first, there's Dakota, by the way. My very first foray into the Vulcanverse, I was a little lost, and we had a lot of we call them walls of text as instructions going through, and even then I was struggling to figure out what's a Vulcanite and where do I need to go, and I was looking for where the big quest markers and where's my mini map and all these other little things. And so that is part of when I talk about the Fatui that we're working on right now. A lot of that is part of what we're checking out as well. It's tricky because, you know, I can remember our analytics from World of Warcraft, if you've ever played that before. And when I was initially on doing writing, you want to create these epic stanzas and these poems that were going to move the hearts and minds of people. Fact of the matter is, guess how many people read the entire text when they get there? You know, I was being arrogant, generous, maybe assuming I'm like at least 50 to 60% of people read those quests. Sadly, it's like 6 to 8% of people ever read the full quest. Most of them scroll right to the bottom. They say, okay, collect 3, you know, wolf hides and return to so and so, done, and move out. So I think that the Vulcanverse suffers from that. We've got a little too much text. We need to get straight into what do we need to do. But it doesn't mean the text is not important. It just means you don't put a wall up. You need, you know, I want to do a max 1 or 2 sentences max. And they need to be super data rich, basically, to get through. They can still have style, they can still have a little bit of flavor, but that's the focus, and that's what we're going to be pushing for next as well. Okay. Brings metal to Hades. Hell yeah. We're going to make Hades. We're going to make Tartarus so metal. Music and SFX are super important. I also think small things like wild creatures running around, the wind blowing flags, 100%. That right there, Lumpy, that is world building. You know, that is, I want, like, there are certain parts of Orgrimmar, there are certain parts of the like the Borderlands in Azeroth that I can sit and just, you know, watch the sunset. I can sit, like, there's a sense of being, there's a sense of transportation that are there. There's certainly, I don't know if any of you guys ever played Skyrim. You know, there's something about the world building there that just says, I want to be here, you know? And I think we absolutely can do that. So much of our Western concept of paradise, our Western concepts of like a perfect place are based on kind of pastoral Greco-Roman ideals, the rolling green hills, everything else, the architecture. Like the Vulcanverse world should be the most interesting, cool, rich location in the gaming universe, you know, and I think we absolutely have the tools to make that happen. It's going to be some work though. So, okay. Yes, Ness is going to talk about getting it shared. We're not sure about how up to date it is. Again, we're shifting to a new system, but I do know that a lot of that does exist online. Lumpy, can't wait for these implementations. Thank you, man. Make everybody unique and not get tired. Yeah, that's the point. Like if anything, if Fortnite has shown us anything, it's that people like to show off what's unique and visual about them. And I'm not saying we're going to go full Fortnite, but I do want you to be able to say, that over there, that is Lumpy. I know Lumpy from the ridiculous, you know, tattoos and the pink mohawk or whatever. You know, you get what I'm saying. Channels well, love to help if anything. Hey, listen, that's where we're having this community conversation. Peg says, I hope there'll be no more complete button on the journey tab. Go and talk to the Empire City to collect the reward. Yeah, we're gonna work through this. A lot of this is gonna be kind of trial and error because, you know, our community is a little different than the WoW community, but we certainly don't have to reinvent the wheel in this case. So we used to have a day and night as well. Some of us actually have VV photographers from back in the day taking great shots at them. I love that. That's from before my time. I don't know how hard that would be to get back on board, but I think that would be a fantastic thing. I know it's not going to be as easy as like flicking a switch to get going, but I think there is a sense of immersion that comes with seasonal and even weather, you know, that can come through. Okay, Midnight Cat Lady, are they adding more to the game? As they're adding more to the game, how will it affect the frames per second? Some of us are running at the red line already, so right now you got to own a game PC play. That is something we're trying to watch the line on that. You know, the game as it is right now runs at a fairly respectable rate. You know, I know, you know, it runs at a lower cost, as we call it. It's less expensive to your computer than a lot of the games that are out right now. Certainly like World of Warcraft and everything else. I think we're kind of on the line about as how low we can go. Our goal is not to push that cost as far as processing, but we are going to just try to add more quantity there. So so it's going to be a case of more storage space, less engine drive, I guess. Again, I apologize. I'm the creative director, so I have to use metaphors to even understand this stuff. It's not my bag as much as some of these other guys, but that's my understanding as it is right now. Scory says, Berserk, is there talk about rebalancing cards? Will we be able to open our Season of Change and community pack soon? That is on the list. I want to get, like I've said, I harp on this all the time. I want to get a Fatui in first. I want to get, you know, the connectivity to Vulcanverse first. Balancing with games like this is a constant, though. I mean, that's, if you're working on a card game, you are balancing most of the time, you know, as you introduce new stuff, and all of a sudden, you know, I remember not even just card games. I can remember with StarCraft, just as soon as you've added a new thing, all of a sudden the audience figures out, oh, or your players figure out, oh, we can do a Zergling drop or the Reaver drop, or here's the new thing, do a carrier rush. You know, if you play StarCraft, those words mean something to you. Where all of a sudden, players are genius at figuring out how to absolutely lean into and take advantage of the slightest little imbalances. And as a dev team, you don't want to overcorrect, and you don't want to, like, you know, slap people on the wrist for being clever and for being competitive. And so balancing is, we always say it's like 50% looking at pros and cons and 50% PR, because nobody likes their favorite character getting nerfed. So anyway, we're talking about Peg says I can run at 60 frames per second when looking top down, but otherwise about 35 while running and loading texture in the distance. So again, I apologize. That is not my my expertise, but I know, you know, if you if there are issues and things like that we want to post in Discord, etc., we'll get the right people looking at that. Michael loves the Vulcanverse. It'd be awesome to build shops on our land to sell materials, trade items, boost player interaction. Maybe Vulcanites like the new Griff with saddlebags could expand inventory. That is the goal. I mean, we would love to create this in-game economy, and have it driven by everybody that's in there doing that. You know, it's that's why I love having these creative jam sessions. And if that's an idea that you want to like chase down and put together some ideas of how it would work for you, please do that. We've got the, you know, Cameron's Canyon over on Discord, where we dig into some of these ideas a little more. Okay, Michael says just some ideas to make the world more and more immersive, of course. And we're asking about badges. Peg wants to talk about the mega question done in the Canyon. Can you picture your vision of a player playing our games in a full year? Yes. I mean, this is a lot of what I'm trying to focus on is I try to, whenever I first start a project, absolutely do kind of blank slate. Like, I'm a new player. I'm somebody in the middle of the demographic, and what is my experience coming on? And I remember my very first thought was, I get this loader and I've got a dozen different games that all have like various, some of them look quasi-related. Some of them, you know, look like they're, you know, from the future. Some of them look like kids games. And, but there's no real instruction of where to go. So I want to do a better job at taking a first-time player, like by the hand. That's why I'm trying to consolidate a lot of this into the Vulcanverse. Because that way, if we start our story there, if we have Cadmus saying, this is you are a demigod. You are trying to gain favor amongst the gods. You wish to enter into the pantheon, to be put up into the stars above. And so that your work that you do here will build your notoriety, will build your reputation, and will build your wealth and your fame. Because I love how that parallels the idea of what you're actually doing, you know, with our Web3 stuff, with our NFTs and the collection and buying land and everything else. I love when the narrative of a game matches what's actually happening to some degree like that. So that's a first-time player experience. I know you're asking, like, how's it going to be? I envision, I would love for your entry into and the socialization that can happen inside of the Vulcanverse be your first stop. even if you're a huge Berserk player, even if you like Hexagonos, you go there first to kind of connect with everybody else, see what people are playing, look at your character, you go to your lands, and you say, okay, I'm ready to get that big Hexagonos map trophy. It would fit on my wall perfectly right over here. So I'm going to go down to the local pub and see who's playing around the table. You get down, you see some people, a table with people like actually scooting little figurines around, going full Warhammer on this thing. You click on let's play a game, boom, and it takes you into the game. That's my vision. You can do that with Berserk. If you want to play our paintball game, you literally walk to that arena and go in. And then of course, I'm still debating the convenience of having that access through some sort of external thing. But maybe some idea of like you unlock that access in the launcher by going in through the Vulcanverse to play it. I like keeping the introductory, the welcoming of people into the game as a smoother experience. So that's my vision. We've got a lot of other people have kind of presented what they see in Cameron's Canyon. So I invite you all to head over there and kind of read what people are saying over there. Okay. We're looking at, Peg, I like the idea that our games will get affected by what is happening inside the version. And VV is basically your orientation. As a player stepping into a community, you want to know, your very first question is, who am I and why am I here? And I think we can answer that in Vulcanverse right there. The other thing, that I wanted to talk about with you on this is, what is our overall impression of accessing these games through the Vulcanverse? Like, would you be frustrated as a Berserk player? I know we've got some big time Berserk players here. If you had to get into the Vulcanverse and walk into that, would you prefer, like, I want to be able to click on that immediately? Would you be okay with earning the ability to do that? Like your first time through, you've got to go and you unlock, maybe you get a special, summoning card or something like that from the owner of the pub to get in there. Love to get your thoughts on that, everybody. Then the other thing, I mean, Ness, should we run some of these ideas about the Metaball game title? I mean, we kind of had some that we'd thrown up, and I love getting everybody's thoughts. Let me look for a full list here. Let's see what else we think. And what will happen with the app on Android, for example. Yeah, that's something we need to figure out, Scory. In PC capability, some play Berserk that can't play. Okay, so we might even have some machines that might be actually the limiting factor. If that is inaccessible, if you simply can't get into play at VV, that might be a thing. Okay, there's small visual artwork. You can't interact with them. You would prefer to have a smaller version inside VV, but having the full game detached. So yeah, I mean that's the tricky thing, because I want to have the game itself fully integrated, at least in as far as like the upgrades and the rules and the characters that you're playing against. If you're playing against Vulcan, if you're playing against Neptune, or that as you can play that game, but you also can see them walking around, inside the pub, glowing with godly light. Might be a lot of fun. And so, let's see. You know what? I think we're actually going to hold on those titles because I want to get a little more feedback from our team. We want to make sure, one of our goals with this paintball game is to have something that is a little more broadly accessible to even like a younger audience. Like wandering around the Vulcanverse right now, you're going to see some horrifying monsters, and there's some blood, and there's some definitely some non kinder friendly violence going on right there. So we're thinking it would be fun to have it's for all intents and purposes going to be paintball, but it's going to have that like Vulcanverse fun in it. And so the real trick is creating a name that evokes the Greek Roman mythology vibe that we've got there without seeming like it's coming out of like your history, sociology, mythology classroom. Something that still has fun, something that still sounds like paintball, so that's clear what you're getting into. And so we're really going to do some brainstorming on those titles right now. All right, let's see what's. Yeah, a mini challenge, maybe not the full version of the game. Nessuel, Berserk, the most ancient and loved game in all of the Vulcanverse, the game given to the people by the gods. There we go. I can hear that in a godly voice. Berserk, the game of the gods. That would be kind of fun. Maybe play Berserk versus AI inside VV. So here's one of the reasons why I'm thinking about having the full version in Vulcanverse is that Berserk, as Cat Lady said, it's not very data intensive. It plays on these lower games, and so I just don't see why you couldn't sit down and just load up that whole game or pop that in, because it is such a like we talked about, inexpensive game as far as data is concerned. Talking about 2-axis, 1 through game, 1 through separate menu. Give special options too. Yeah, I'm thinking that might be more the case that we do there. Like the Arcadia Vulcanite have a little more edge if you're inside Vulcanverse. Players of that allegiance somehow manage to win games. Interesting idea. Berserk puzzles to solve could also be a real twist. Love that. Same for hacks, like setup moves to be completed like the daily puzzles in chess. Yeah, I absolutely think we're doing a revamp of the achievement system right now. I would love to have a challenge like that challenges you. Can you dip inside of each game, play a little bit of each game, and that way you achieve like the overall favor of the gods, because it shows you're being an active participant in all of their divine movements, sort of thing. So Ness says that some good points here. Maybe a Berserk mini game inside VV, a good introduction to new players. I'm assuming basic set of cards, player versus automaton, or a full version of PvP. Playing in pub. Yeah, so like obviously the idea of playing in a pub, it's not new. I mean, the whole idea of Hearthstone, I think they've made that as that little pub that's right in front of Stormwind is kind of the home where everybody meets up for that. And it also gives the game a vibe of this is something people are gathered around the fire and drinking a beer and playing this game. And that's kind of the vibe that we want with that. Of course, ours is a little more, I guess, I don't know if you want to say spiritual, but there are gods involved. And so for me, I've even played with this idea of maybe Hexagonos is not so much a play it with your buddies in front of the hearth there, but maybe there's a separate building in town that is like the Stratego, that's the war room, that is the military academy, possibly. It's where we have what's the room? Mars, the god of war, sits in judgment there, and maybe there are tables, strategic tables. Have you ever been to like a gaming store and they've got like all the Warhammer tables all around, something like this? And I love this idea that maybe these battles that you are directing are your kind of godly vision of actual battles that are happening, down on Earth, and that your actions, the way you play, can result in worship from these the people down below. So if you tend to be somebody who just throws hoplites in front of the arrows as meat shields, you make all the sacrifice to get the game, maybe you're seen as a victorious warlord, but you're also kind of vicious and you don't achieve as much of the worship as is possible. But if you play conservatively and you're still victorious, but you have a lower death ratio, you start to gain the worship, and maybe there could be advantages in Hexagonos by being beloved by your troops, versus being feared and respected. There might be some different things. Maybe on one side they fight more ferociously, on the other side they're more, it's easier for them to retreat or lose their morale. So I know I'm probably giving Daredevil a heart attack by throwing some of these ideas out, but I think I love having some of those meta back and forth ideas with a game. And that's what I'm talking about with the integration with Vulcanverse. It's not just a style thing, it's also part of the narrative and part of that story. So, Day is a master of Warhammer. Peg, I did not know that. All right, we might have to discuss and compare armies at some point. Is anybody else in this chat Warhammer or Warhammer 40K or Inquisition or any of the other tabletop gamer? Because that is a whole separate species. Not seeing that. I mean, that's that if you play that sort of game at all, Hexagonus is absolutely your sort of game, because it is all about thinking. It's like chess. You're thinking several steps ahead. You don't want to commit to something that you're going to get trapped in. And by the way, for those saying no, it has saved you lots and lots of money because those games are so damn expensive. Like I got tricked into it because I had a buddy that asked me over that he was just painting his figs, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Tell me the story of this orc with mecha armor on. He's like, well, let me tell you about the orcs, and let me tell you about the way they battle, and let me tell you about the Waaagh and the whole thing. And once you get into the lore, I mean, Games Workshop, that has done this stuff, has absolutely got layers and layers of ancient lore behind everything on both the fantasy and science fiction sides. So if you've not fallen inside that trap just yet, I'm going to warn you away, because it is a gravity well you shall not escape very easily. So their entire store is dedicated to it, and they will easily have a portion of their section set up with gaming tables that will heavily reek of Cheetos and Mountain Dew. It's a geek wonderland for sure. Creating a VV board game, honestly, like that would be a lot of fun. I mean, absolutely a Berserk. Like, I think it would be a lot of fun to actually print out Berserk cards, make them extra collectible, make them, maybe there's something it's a premier gift or prize for the loyal members of the community. I think there is something as we move into. I'm gonna get on a pedestal here for a minute. As we move into our increasingly more digital world, there is something powerful about the tangible, about having I've been, as a writer, I've been hesitant to step fully into the Kindle thing. I recognize it's convenient, but man, having an actual book in your hands with the smell of the pages and everything else is unmatched. So having some actual Berserk cards and like a cool carrying case, I think it would be a lot of fun. So, all right. I just realized I'm absolutely just yapping my jaw here. So let's see. Do we have any other big questions before I let everybody go? Peg says all big franchises have only one thing. They have many kinds of different things. Movies have. Yeah. So Peg, what you're talking about is transmedia. It's a word that gets bandied around a lot. A lot of people kind of use the term because they think it's fancy, but they're not quite sure what they're talking about. It's been a big thing on my list and a big part of my career for a very long time. I think I might have mentioned when I was on the creative development team at Blizzard for StarCraft 2, the Heart of the Swarm. They let me create a transmedia campaign, basically, which meant for months before the release of the game, I was able to get together a bunch of short stories, and we had a live blog going. We even had a Twitter campaign conversation going on where I had created 10 different characters that I was schizophrenically talking to myself as we built up this big drama towards the release of the game. We call it Project Blackstone, if you ever want to look it up. I got writers from from Star Trek. Got some Locus and Nebula award-winning writers to do these short stories about the new units that were going to be coming out, and all of those stories leaned towards the release of this new Heart of the Swarm, which was the rise of the Zerg sort of thing. And so I think it is a powerful tool that you can use in creating a world to make that world feel more immersive. Would love to take steps towards that with Vulcanverse. I would love to have a comic out. I would love to get some actual little cards out. and really have this something that you could, if you wanted to have your game room or whatever, you could have trophies all around that, just like on your land in Vulcanverse. So yeah, I think that would be pretty freaking cool. So priorities first, though, we gotta whip the games into shape, and I think the rest of this will follow for sure. So, oh, okay. I was wondering if any of you were gonna get this. Scory gets the OG game cred. If any of you know, I've heard of Half-Life. In my mind, Half-Life, Half-Life 2 represent some of the most innovative storytelling and narrative in video games ever. In fact, when I taught a class at Laguna College around game storytelling, I would use Half-Life and Half-Life 2 as my kind of guide points. They were my textbooks essentially for the class. So good to see that was recognized, brother. And yeah, I'm gonna. And then of course, if you played Portal. Portal is some of the newer, content that comes that. These games still stand up if you want to do any, gaming homework ahead. So, okay. Credit all around for the Valve recognition. I'm gonna scoot. It looks like I'm just jabbering here. So fun having this conversation with you all. Appreciate the input. Appreciate the thoughts. Again, continue this over on in Cameron's Canyon. We're gonna have Sal getting more involved as a part of this conversation. Until next week, everybody, thanks again for your time.